They looked down at the arrow that had just landed on the ground, everyone paling as they realized what was happening. "Take cover!" Forrest shouted as loudly as possible, turning towards the still resting troops. His voice was drowned out by the hissing of thousands of arrows flying above their heads. They were under attack, trapped in the mountains. Immediately they heard the gasps and screams of pain from the soldiers as arrows hit them, their bodies falling to the ground with a clang of armor striking soil. The fastest warriors took their shields and lifted them up to protect their bodies, but still several got hit from behind. The arrows were coming from everywhere. They were surrounded. Thor had lifted his hand, the power of Mjolnir vibrating before it flew into the grasp. The crowned prince screamed in rage and flew off. He lifted his arm, electricity sparkling around the hammer, before he threw it down against a cliff. Thunder falling down. It resonated through the whole mountain. A cloud of dust rising around the top of the cliff. When they heard rumbling of falling rocks mixed with screams of pain, massive blocks fell from the cliff, landing close to the Asgardian troops, who tried to move away as far as possible. Many bodies of dead mountain giants were scattered in the middle of the rocks as Thor landed among his shoulders, shouting orders. "Shields up!" he shouted. He interrupted an arrow mid-flight with the Mjolnir, destroying the splinters. The soldiers moved quickly, trying to form ranks, lifting up their shields above their heads. Quickly, most troops were protected under or behind their shields, forming a giant shield around them. Loki, the warriors of Frey and Sif, have observed Thor's actions and decisions from afar. The maiden warrior looked up in the mountains to locate the archers, but the trees and pines were more numerous than anywhere else in the mountains, which is probably why the giants hid there. Plus, the cold dust was making it impossible to see. "What an idiot!" Loki grunted between his teeth, cursing Thor for making the task even more complicated. "This isn't helping, Loki," Vandrel exclaimed. "Respect your brother," Volstagg added, lifting up his shield just before an arrow hit it. The prince glared at him, but didn't answer. When an arrow hit the shield Sif had lifted up in front of Loki's face before it could kill him, he stared at her in disbelief that she kept her expression focused. "We need to stay focused on the enemy. Stop fooling around," she exclaimed to all of them. "We need to take down the archers," Hogun said. Sif nodded before turning her attention to Thor, who kept flying from one part of the cliff to another, destroying the mountain giants. "Thor!" she called. He didn't seem to have heard anything, but after a short moment during which he grabbed the 3 mountain giants, threw them down to the ground, the crown prince flew back to his friends. "We need to take down the archers before they decimate us all," Fandrel exclaimed. "I agree. Then we should split up and then go up to..." A deep rumbling suddenly echoed from the mountains, interrupting them. The group turned their heads upwards, from where the sounds were coming. The arrows suddenly stopped, proving that it wasn't coming from the mountain giants. Some soldiers looked up from behind their shields, everyone falling silent and wondering what was happening. Then a colorful flash of light erupted on their right, hitting the ledge above the cliff. They heard a scream of rage as more troops they couldn't see from down in the ravine ran forward, right towards the mountain giants. The screams of agony resonated, and some desperate mountain giants jumped off the cliff towards a certain death, but one they had chosen on their left. The Bifrost beamed again, turning some trees into dust. Same battle cries sounded, all Jotunum archers trying to run away in vain. "Aha!" Thor exclaimed, hitting strongly Loki's shoulder. The younger prince almost fell over from the slap as he felt his wound open again, a bittersweet taste invading his mouth as he threw a hard look at his brother that didn't escape Sif's vigilant gaze. "I told you the Allfather had a plan," Thor continued. Soon enough, the Asgardian troops had come to the rescue, had every corner, every mountain giants, and were killing them off by either pushing them off the cliff or by piercing through them. The cliffs were turning crimson from all the blood flowing down. "Look!" Fandrel exclaimed, pointed his sword at the top of the cliff. They looked up and saw Orvar on his horse, smiling and nodding at them. "Orvar, the Allfather did have a plan. He outsmarted the mountain giants," Volstagg exclaimed as the last enemies were being taken prisoner. Orvar pulled at his horse's reins while the new coming troops carefully walked down the mountain paths to join the rest of the troops. Odin's generals soon joined the princes and the elite warriors. "Orvar, How happy we are to see you, Volstagg exclaimed, opening his arms and tackling the general to the forced hug. I'm happy to know that you're all safe and sound too, but you're all strangling me, Olvar said. Volstagg laughed but let go of Olvar, hitting him on the shoulder with his sheer enthusiasm. The young general smiled at the group, eyes landing on Loki before his smile grew slightly wider. Prince Loki, we thought you were dead. Sorry to disappoint. Don't say such things, brother. It is a victory to celebrate, Thor exclaimed, putting a hand on his brother's shoulder. Our father did have a wise plan, and we eliminated the Jotunum threat. Loki suddenly pulled away, slapping the back of his brother's hand. Thor blinked at Loki, not understanding why he would react so vehemently. Their friends had fell silent, staring worriedly at the two princes. A victory? The war isn't over, Thor, Loki hissed, before turning so suddenly towards Olvar, and he started. I need to speak with the Allfather right away. Where is he? Loki, calm down, Fandral started, but the prince ignored him. The Allfather can't be joining the war at the moment, but I'm very sure whatever message you need to share with him can wait and... No, it can't wait. Why is it so hard to listen to me? Loki yelled. Thor looked down, frowning. The warrior Free and Lady Sif's expressions darkened, suddenly remembering the dreadful information Loki had shared with them before the attack. Olvar swallowed, but kept staring at the young prince, who continued, taking a step forward. If you have a messenger, you should send this message to Allfather. The war isn't solely against the mountain giants, but all of Jotunum is leagued against us. The general's eyes grew wider before he frowned. What makes you think so, your highness? He asked. Loki was considering throttling him when Thor, sensing his anger and impatience, put his strong hand on it and stepped forward. I believe my brother's words. He executed the mission he was sent for. Everything he says is true. The Allfather needs to know this as soon as possible. Olvar observed them for a moment before nodding quickly. Hedmadal is watching us now. All the message is probably already given to Allfather, as well as our news of our little victory. We may not have won the war yet, but the mountain giants' archers have been mostly annihilated. The few prisoners are being interrogated as we speak. Did the Allfather send you? What are his orders? Thor asked. The general looked at the blonde-haired man for a short moment before speaking. What were yours? The confused look on the crown prince's face made Olvar sigh deeply before he continued. Unfortunately, he gave us a tiny part of his plan. We don't know what he's planning. We only know our missions. He had planned his attack on the mountain giants, which is the reason why he sent you to lead the main troops through these cursed mountains. He had hoped the Jotunums would try to trap the Asgardians on their way and outwitted them. But at what price? Loki asked, before sending a glance at the injured soldiers. How many have perished before even reaching the plains of Sungrum? He sighed, staring at his brother before speaking again. The Allfather may be wise, and he may know how to win a war, but he doesn't know everything. He used all of his tools to trap the mountain giants, only a few of them. The real battle is coming, and we will be outnumbered. The Allfather didn't know all of Jotunum would be the enemy, so yes, in the battlefield, we will be outnumbered after the sacrifice that could have been avoided, Sif said darkly, thinking about the families that were now broken forever because of this war. Thor lowered his head, guilt washing over him. If he had thought more deeply about the pathway they were following, he could have opposed to his father to avoid such a risk. Instead, he had blindly followed his orders, confident that his father was the Allfather. Olvar stared mostly at Loki when he spoke. The Prince Loki, is the same in all wars, sacrifice. Many died today and many more will, but we will keep fighting for Asgard. It is our duty, he said firmly. Sir, they turned towards Harry, that had just arrived, standing a few meters away from his princes and the bravest warriors of Asgard. What is it? Olvar asked, frowning. We have counted the dead and the injured from both sides, sir. Harry exclaimed. Share it with us, then, Fandral asked hurriedly. The young soldier looked down at the paper in his hand, reading out the information. The mountain giants have 378 killed and 20 kept prisoner. He paused, swallowing before continuing the other numbers. As for the Asgardian troops that had departed under your lead, your highness, he started, glancing at Thor before continuing. 117 archers offered their lives for Asgard as 96 were injured. The infantry lost 389 soldiers. 673 were badly injured. The cavalry was intact. They were at the back of the troops. He sighed deeply before lowering his paper, looking straight at the princes and warriors. The total number of losses and casualties of 1,275, Your Highness. For's lips parted in shock, his face pale. Loki clenched his jaw while Ovar, the warriors of Free and Sif, lowered their heads. The crown prince turned around, his heart heavy from his enormous loss. The battle had not lasted more than a few minutes, and they had been saved by Ovar's troops. The price is the same as in all wars, sacrifice, he had said just a moment ago. For had fought many battles, but he had never led troops this numerous, and he had never faced such loss. You may go, Ovar finally said to the Einherji, who bowed quickly to the princes before walking away. Our archers have been wiped out, Fandral murmured, eyes shining with tears that he didn't want to shed. At least the cavalry troops are complete, Volstagg added with a forced smile, trying to stay positive. It's 4 times the Jotunum losses, Loki murmured, fists clenched in rage. I've been using Fochenard to attack Asgard. Of course, if Odin or Thor or any of her friends were to die during this war, it would be just a bonus. Isa, no, Angrboda and Heder were behind this war. They were the reason why so many Asgardians were lying dead in the dust. He looked up in feral light in his eyes. His gaze met Thor's unreadable one. I won't let you insult me for trusting our father. They stared at each other for a moment, intense electricity sparkling in the air. If Thor knew what Loki was thinking about, and what Loki was aware of Thor's knowledge of his thoughts, the silent accusation was obvious, and everyone else swallowed nervously. Trust, eh? Loki spat at his brother, who frowned. Our father had a plan that involved killing thousands of us. But this is war, isn't it? Loki continued bitterly, turning towards Ovar. Sacrifices, death, duty, following orders blindly. War makes a fool of us. For a short moment, the brown-haired man general stared coldly at the young prince before taking a deep breath. This is war. The mountain giants are responsible for this, and tearing ourselves apart will gain us nothing, Loki, Volstagg said. We are all shaken by our friends who died in a trap, Sif added. Loki stared at them without a word. He clenched his fists when turned around sharply. You don't know who the real enemy is, he whispered under his breath, so low that only Thor perceived his words. He frowned, but before he could ask anything of his brother, the latter looked over his shoulders at the blonde-haired prince. But this is a small victory, isn't it? Let's celebrate, he mocked. Thor's frown deepened, clenching his fists in anger and pain so that his brother wouldn't understand what he was feeling guilty already. Guilty and shaken. Nothing could have been prepared for any of them for such a loss, especially not so soon after the actual battle. Even blinded by the loss and rage, Thor still considered his brother's strange behavior. Of course he would have cursed that so many warriors lost their lives in a trap set up by their father. But Thor knew his brother well enough to understand that there was more behind this cold anger than the love for his people. Thor felt as if his brother was a stranger, as if he had lost his brother among these soldiers, as if Loki had lost himself. Loki was walking away in a steady pace, needing to get away from everyone. What happened to him during this mission? He's even moodier than usual, Volstagg replied. Sif glanced at Thor, knowing that none of them would be able to know Loki enough, it would be him. As soon as the Crown Prince felt people's attention drawing back to him, rather than his brother, he shook away all emotions and another renewed determination to advance the Asgardian troops and get rid of the Jotunums. Let's camp here tonight and then tend to the injured ones. We'll discuss my plans in my tent in an hour. I have a conversation to finish with my brother. He grumbled already, taking a few steps towards to follow Loki. The warriors Free and Ovar observed him in silence before they started giving orders to the shaken troops. Sif bit her lower lip before running after Thor, catching up with him quickly. He glanced over at his shoulder at hearing footsteps behind him, but he didn't say a word. The maiden warrior stared at him for a long moment before speaking up. Did he say anything? He asked, knowing Thor would understand perfectly. Thor glanced at her before turning his head straight ahead, but his eyes were staring at the dusty ground. No. Sif remained silent, and for a moment before speeding up to be by his side. The first thing that worried him upon waking up was that talking to you and the Allfather to warn us about what he has learned. But I'm sure he's learned more than about this war. He didn't have time to tell us everything he knows, and surely, and it will be more useful than us. The Crown Prince showed a small smile, a little tense before glancing at his friend. You didn't follow me only to share with me what I already knew? He asked, his voice gentler. You know me so well, I can't hide my intentions from you, she replied with an unknowing smile. She dropped her smile and her expressions darkened. For he had been hidden from the Hemdrill during the entirety of this mission. We barely know what happened to him. You found him injured in the woods, poisoned, after having attacked by some of an enormous quantity of cedar. I don't know what happened to him, but her voice trailed off and she looked down. She never cared so much for the second prince, but they had fought together many times. They probably were friends, and For loved him as so much it was hard not to smile, thinking about the two brothers. For put a hand on her shoulder, squeezing it tightly and reassuringly, making the young lady look up at him. He smiled tenderly at a beautiful smile he was showing for her and her only. Thank you for your concern, Lady Sif, he murmured, his hand staying too long for her shoulder to be completely platonic. Her heart missed a beat, warmth spreading through her entire body as he turned around. She grabbed her muscular arm before he could leave and looked back at her, lips parting in surprise. She looked shocked at him after her sudden move. For I'm not sure the Loki we have with us is the same who parted to Jonam 2 weeks ago, Sif murmured before realizing that Loki wasn't the same. It scared her knowing that they all figured out, but no one had but none had wanted to face the truth. None had wanted to find out exactly what happened to Loki. Considering the state he was in, it was terrifying. Thor smiled bright and confident smile, and it took her breath away. He's my brother, he said with a soft, strong smile. He had left her then, and Sif was left alone with her worries and thoughts. She turned around, looking down at the injured men. The sun was slowly setting, bathing the entire landscape in the shades of gold and red. Prey was being built, and down blood-covered cliffs and bodies of dead Asgardians killed in the Battle of the Red Cliffs aligned, waiting to be set on fire. More flames to add to this burning war. And, well, that, my pretties, was The Rise of Loki, God of Mischief. A, you could say a fan fiction written by LilweenGalatrass. Um, my final thoughts on this story. Well, this story is not complete. I'm just gonna say that now. And it was last updated back in 2016, so it's been over pretty much 10 years. And this author hasn't uploaded in quite a long time, so yeah, I mean, I think they might have lost interest in this story, so that's probably why, you know, the story is not there. But, I definitely do need to sit here and say is that I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was a really good one. It's got really good concept, it's a really great story, and it's a really good plot line. I personally really enjoyed this a whole lot. I thought it was really good. So I'll leave a link into this story for any of you guys who want to go check out this story. This story is definitely a really great one. I mean, yeah, the grammar's pretty good as well as the sentence structuring. The storyline is pretty cool. I personally really enjoyed it, and I found a lot to enjoy about this story. I thought this story was pretty good. I mean, yeah, I will say, there were a couple flaws with this story, like, Loki's mainly has always been the villain, you know, and some of the stuff he did was out of character for him, but like I said, I'm not gonna judge somebody for doing that. It's just, it's just me being honest. But other than that, I thought this was a really great story. So I definitely do need to sit here and say is that it's a really interesting concept. Now, I definitely do need to sit here and say is that it's a really amazing, well done story. I mean, yeah, it's a really good story. I personally liked it. I thought it was really good. It's got a great concept. Everything about this was just flat out amazing. I personally really enjoyed this story. I thought it was really well done. I personally really thought it was amazing. And, I still pretty much enjoy this story for what this is. So, yeah, I definitely do need to sit here and say is that, yeah, this story was just pretty good. So, anyway, I guess with that being the case and with that being said, I'm just going to sit here and say right now that this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these stories. This is simply my own personal thoughts. I give this story a 10 out of 10. It's a really good story involving Loki, and this is just a really amazing, well done story. I thought this was pretty good. It's just a really amazing, well done story. I personally really enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty good. So, yeah, with that being the case and with that being said, I'm just going to sit here and say that this is just simply my own personal opinion. And if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these stories. This is simply my own personal thoughts. I know I repeated myself, but I kind of want to, sit here and say that just in case you guys don't know. But, this is just a really great concept. So, I guess with that being said and with that being the case, I definitely do need to sit here and say is if you enjoy this story, I highly recommend leave a comment and let me know what you guys think. So there's that. And as always, I'm gonna sit here and say, what did you guys personally think? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you're new to my channel, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to any uploads, that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, I will be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out, and like always, roll the outro because I'm out.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.